Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Widener. I'm an associate professor in geography and planning and the incoming director of health studies at the University of Toronto, St. George.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Fuller. I'm an associate professor in the School of Human Kinetics and Recreation at Memorial University of Newfoundland and a Tier 2 Canada Research Chair in Population Physical Activity. This is the presentation of sort of a summary presentation of the Neighbourhood Factors group for CANUE, for the CANUE AGM. Michael Widener and I are going to speak to some of the things that we've done as the Neighbourhood Factors co-leads over the course of CANUE, and hopefully this will be interesting and informative. So really the Neighbourhood Factors team was all about thinking about and developing measures for how do neighborhoods impact our health. There's a well-established relationship between built environments, food environments, and the environment in general, and a range of health outcomes. And our role was to sort of consider and develop new measures for these types of environments. As the Neighbourhood Factors group, we had a major focus on walkability, urban sprawl, gentrification, and food environments. And we'll speak to each one of those things in the upcoming slides. The first thing that we did as part of the Neighbourhood Factors team was held a workshop that was discussing what are walkable environments, how do we measure them, and what is the future of measurement for walkable environments. This workshop was held in November 2017 at Memorial University of Newfoundland. The workshop was titled The Future of Walkability Measurement and had the participants there below. This workshop really helped to strengthen collaborations with researchers who are doing research in walkability and specifically walkability measurement. It also led to the submission of a conceptual paper that proposes a definition of walkability for the literature. To date, there hasn't been a sort of concise definition of walkability, and the paper, this paper is currently under review. CANUE is a measure that, the Canadian Active Living Environments is a measure that was developed by Dr. Nancy Ross and her team at McGill University. It's an active living environments measure, or sort of a walkability measure for Canada at the dissemination area level. It's being used extensively across Canada, and you can see here an example of the CANUE measure for St. John's, Newfoundland. And here you see sort of the downtown and the rest of the census metropolitan area for St. John's. Another measure that was developed by the Neighbourhood Factors team was a sprawl index. This is the first census tract level sprawl measure for urban Canada. It's an adaptation of previously published and validated methods from the US. CANUE funded one trainee, a postdoc, Dr. Henry Luan, to develop a score. As well, the development of the score led to additional CIHR funding through the data analysis using existing database and cohorts to look at associations between GPS measured movement and physical activity and urban sprawl in Canada. So these data are available on the CANUE website, and all the code is also available on the GitHub of my lab, which is Walkability Lab. The third major sort of initiative for the Neighbourhood Factors team was the Genuine measure. So this is gentrification, urban environments, and equity. This was in collaboration with the Interventions Research and Action in Cities team, or INTERACT, of which I'm a co-PI for that team. And Genuine is a tool that provides data and maps for different gentrification measures for all major Canadian cities. It identifies gentrified areas from changes in socio and demographic characteristics over 10 years that meet a particular threshold. So here, the purpose really of the Genuine measure was to provide data, but also to let urban planners and users think about how different measures of gentrification might give us different answers in terms of what we want to identify or address when we're trying to address gentrification. So here's an example of two different measures: the Freeman measure and the Ding measure for the island of Montreal. In terms of urban environments research outputs, we have one published paper, Causally Speaking, Challenges in Measuring Gentrification for Population Health Research, published in Health in Place. We have 3 submitted manuscripts that are currently under review, and we have a number of different conference presentations. I'm going to pass things over to Dr. Michael Widener from University of Toronto to speak to the food environments aspect of the Neighbourhood Factors team.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. With the work we were doing at U of T, we were really focused on food environments and their relationship to a range of health outcomes. But in particular, we were interested in understanding how we can better represent and maintain data sets that accurately describe the food environment. There's been a big debate in the literature around the integrity of food environment measures, especially making sure that they're accurate, because the results of a lot of our studies are very sensitive to obtaining these accurate data. We also had a number of nice discussions around where, when, and how these food retailers matter in the world of health. And that was a big question that was a part of our kickoff workshop in 2018 on food environments that happened at the University of Toronto, where we discussed how food environment measures can be further developed in Canadian cities. And you can see here the range of people that attended that workshop. So this was a really useful workshop for a lot of us. It strengthened connections between participants, and we saw a number of collaborations emerge from this workshop. So the things that were produced from our work with CANUE funds, in part, were primarily these two data products here. So the first of which was a large-scale analysis of OpenStreetMap data, where we produced a number of statistics documenting how accurate OpenStreetMap data points of interest, OpenStreetMap points of interest data were when compared to a DA level business register measure of points of interest from 2012. So this was some data that was readily available, that somebody had already pulled from Stats Canada, and we were comparing it at a city level across most major cities in the country. And we are planning on doing a more sort of rigorous version of this with the output expected in 2022. But for a number of reasons, we're waiting for more access to business register data from Stats Canada. The second product that came out of this project was the CanFed dataset, the Canadian Food Environment dataset. So CANUE helped fund two trainees, Andrew Stevenson and Clara Kaufman, both who were graduate students at McGill University, to visit Stats Canada and extract food environment data in the summer of 2019. This also led to a collaboration between Leah Miniker, myself, and Nancy Ross, where we obtained CAHR funding to do further data analysis using this Stats Canada data set. However, right as we were really ramping up, COVID happened, and so things slowed down quite a bit for us, but things, I'm happy to report, are moving much more swiftly again. So on the right here, there is a link on the slide. I'm not sure if these slides will be distributed, but if you essentially go to the wiki.openstreetmap.org page and go to any Canadian city, you should find a statistics page where it compares the counts of businesses using various NAICS codes from both the Stats Canada Business Registry and the OpenStreetMaps points of interest file. Focusing a bit more on the big data set that we're producing, the CanFed data set, this is data that will be available in a few months for researchers at the RDC, and will include counts of various types of food retailers, and should be considered the gold standard in food retail data across Canada, because these are data that are derived from tax return information. And it improves upon a lot of the other types of data we've been using in this area, like OpenStreetMap or DMTI, for example. So in addition to the researcher data set, we're also going to be producing a public-facing data set that should have aggregated dissemination area level representation of the food environment. And we're also producing an interactive web map. The template for this was done prior to the pandemic, but because of COVID, we have been waiting for the data from StatsCan for quite a while. But we do expect that this map should be done no later than Q2 of 2022. So on the right here, we have the template for the web map. It's ready to go. We just need to input the data and clean up the menu so it looks a little bit prettier, which we plan on doing soon. So like Daniel, we've been busy putting together a number of manuscripts and presenting at conferences. We've had one paper published that was a result of conversations that occurred at the CANUE workshop and as a book chapter around how GPS data can be used in food environment research and how it's related to bias, the self-selection, or excuse me, selective mobility bias that we often have to account for in food environment research. We also have quite a few papers that are using the CanFed dataset that should be out shortly, including a couple of papers led by the trainees that were funded by CANUE in part in 2019, Andrew Stevenson and Claire Kaufman, as well as another paper that's in preparation by my postdoc, Lindsay Smith, doing the comparison of OpenStreetMap data with the Canadian Business Register data. And then we have a number of conferences. Here's just a few of them, mostly from Andrew, because he got back to me in time. But there are many others that I'm happy to share with the group if you're interested.